The second book that I read that is even bigger excuse category is called Virus of the Mind. And The Virus of the Mind was written by Richard Brody. This book takes a look at not just the physical kinds of conditioning that we've had, but it takes a look at the cultural and what is called the memetic, M-E-M-E-T-I-C, memetic. The basic unit of genetics is the gene. The basic unit of something called memetics is the word that Richard Dawson called. It's called the meme, a meme, M-E-M-E. And these memes are really viruses. Now, you know what a virus is. Most of you know what a virus is. Every virus, from my research, and I'm not a scientist, but this is what I came up with as I researched to write this book and do this program. The viruses in your body, for example, have three functions. The first function of a virus is to duplicate itself. And it doesn't care who it's involved with or whatever, it just duplicates and duplicates and duplicates. It splits and then it duplicates again over and over and over. The second function of the virus is to infiltrate. So it duplicates, and any time that there's an opening, it will infiltrate. It will go into someplace that it has an opening. And the third function of a virus is to spread. Duplicate, infiltrate, and spread to as many bodies as it possibly can. That's what a virus does. And it doesn't care who it does it with. It's not interested. It doesn't play favorites. When it gets into your body, that's what it's going to do. And we all know that if you have a virus, that taking an antibiotic is absolutely a waste of time, even though so many people go to their physicians and beg for these antibiotics, which will only treat bacteria, but very often they act as placebos. If you believe that it's going to take care of it, then sure enough, very often it works for you. But all it does is accumulate more and more of these little tiny antibody things in your body. And the same thing is true of a virus in a computer. You know, these viruses in computers have the same thing. It's like you get a virus in your computer, and it just duplicates, duplicates, duplicates. And the third function of the virus, of course, is to spread. So not only does it want to get into your computer, but it likes to get into your neighbors as well. And before you know it, you've got a major crisis. And you've all read stories about these. I have no idea how that works. You know, how this thing can duplicate, infiltrate, and then spread from one computer to the next, but somehow that's what they do. The book Virus of the Mind affected me very dramatically because it speaks about the very same functions, but there's no particles, there's no things. And these are ideas. The definition of a meme is an idea or a thought or a belief in your own mind that can spread to and from other people's minds, transferring ideas and beliefs mentally. And where did it come from? Where do you get these memes, these ideas, these beliefs that we carry around inside of us that are handed to us? Now remember, we're talking about an idea that's in your mind that goes into somebody else's mind, like this is an idea from your mother, or from your father, or from your grandparents, or from their grandparents, or for people who lived in the 4th century, or whatever, that these ideas get placed into our mind. They have absolutely, there's no particle, you can't find them, there's no substance to them, and they are constantly duplicating, you hear them over and over and over again. These mind viruses are placed into our heads. They duplicate, they infiltrate, and they spread. And they go from one, and they become cultural norms. They become things that we absolutely believe are truths. And we constantly carry them around with us wherever we go. We tell other people about them. We have absolute, total faith that these are truths, when in fact, they're just ideas that are viruses. And Richard Brody's book, Virus of the Mind, is a very powerful look at how we can do something about these viruses. I have many examples of these. I have examples of these in my own life. My mother, who is almost 93 now, and was on a PBS special with me in San Francisco a few years ago, my own mom grew up in the Depression. She was a young woman in the early 1930s and right up through the end of the Depression. And she was able to put a lot of these memes, these mind viruses, into my head, into my brother's head. And she got them from her mom, and she got them from, and we call this, some of us call this a depression mentality. And we carry around these viruses, these memes, and we live with them. I remember when I first got married to my wife, she had 2 children from a previous marriage, and they just told me about this the other day. They were 7 and 5 or something like that, or maybe a little older, and they came over to the house where we were going to live in Florida, and I thought, well, I'll just welcome them, you know, these 2 young kids, my son Shane and my daughter Stephanie, and I came and I brought them some jelly donuts, a big whole bag of jelly donuts, which I loved when I was a kid. I mean, I used to literally be able to eat an entire dozen of them. To me, there was nothing better in this world than, and especially when you got the big juicy ones with the big globs of jelly in there. I don't even touch that stuff now, but I did. So I brought them these bags. Well, they had never seen a jelly donut before. They had never eaten anything like that. And Stephanie took one bite and went, oh. And Shane was, what is this? And they took 6 jelly donuts and they put it into the garbage. They just tossed them into the, like, well, who would eat this? And I saw them do that, and I almost fainted. My depression mentality, the meme, you know, that you are poor. And I went over to the garbage, and I reached in, and I started eating the jelly donut. Just knocking off a few of the things that were in that. And I ate, like, all 6 of them, I think. Because every time they tell me this story, they just are still aghast that anybody would actually eat a jelly donut, let alone one out of the garbage, you know? But that depression mentality of mine is a meme that I still carry around even to this day. I mean, when my children finish with their toothpaste tubes, I've got about 2 more months of brushing my teeth on what they throw away. I do. And they get rid of a bar of soap from the shower, and they just toss the soap into the, like there's this much soap. Well, that's 6 showers at least, you know. And then I take all of those little pieces, and I put the pieces together to make a bigger piece. And I find myself doing that. Probably my very favorite is something that I only do when I'm all alone, when nobody else is around. But why I'm admitting this on national television, I have no idea. But what I do when I can't, do you ever like can't, you can't find something, you know, it's like you have a letter in front of you and you're looking at it, and then you look over here and it's just gone. You pick everything up, or there's a check there or something, and you look everywhere, you're underneath it, and you start going crazy, you know. My favorite is with vitamins. If I pour some vitamins out and I drop one on the floor, and it just goes into a big black hole, you know. It's just the Bermuda Triangle, and you look everywhere. You're down on your knees, you know. It's got, and you don't want to give up. It's like, how could it disappear? How could it just be gone? It's just gone. But there's nobody home. So I've got this something I learned. It's not really sulking. It's just like, it's just insanity. That's all it is. It's got to be here. It's got to be here somewhere. How could I possibly have that? It couldn't be this. And then I walk and I realize that there's nobody there, and a little profanity possibly, and I find myself acting in a really irrational, crazy way, and I catch myself. And even at 68, I still find myself, when I'm all alone, because I don't want to do this around because this is Wayne Dyer, and he's not supposed to act like this. He's supposed to be a spiritual teacher, and so. And we carry around these kinds of memes, these kinds of ideas, and they extend not just to those kind of silly little things. They extend to, for example, if you're a woman, what is it possible for you to do? What did you learn when you were a young girl about what women can do, about what women can't do? When I was in high school, when I graduated from high school in 1958, I think 1 or 2% of the people admitted to medical school and law school were women. Today, a half a century or more later, it's 50%. We've changed. But these memes are things that, you know, we grew up to believe in. What is possible for me, what's not possible for me, what can happen, can I attract something into my life, can I not, and so on. And most of these are just viruses. They're viruses that are in our minds that convince us that we can't change, we can't make things happen, or we can make things happen, but somebody else has to do it for us. 95% of the people, what I learned in one of the books I was speaking to you about, have absolutely no genetic basis for their unhappiness, for their fear, for the kinds of things that they're taking drugs to overcome in their lives. 95% no genetic basis, and yet we still carry around these ideas. I can't help it, I've always been this way, I'm depressed, I'm unhappy, I'm miserable, I'm full of stress. Stress is one of my favorite memes. It's a meme. There's no stress in the world. None. If I gave you an assignment to go out and bring me back a bucket full of stress, you would never find it. You'd be looking, and just like for the vitamins, you'd be saying, there's got to be some here someplace. Everybody's suffering from it. We're all taking drugs to overcome it. All there are people out there thinking stressful thoughts. And virtually all of these stressful thoughts, you have to be under stress when you move from one city to another, when you go through a divorce, when you have a fire, when there's an illness, when there's an accident, when somebody disappoints you. That's a stressful thing. Those are all memes. They're just viruses that are placed in your mind that tell you that this is the way you're supposed to act, and this is the way we acted, and this is the way our parents acted, and we want to really go to work at eliminating those kinds of things. So you don't have to really remain a victim of any of these things. What you need is to follow this excuses be gone paradigm.